Good morning, Devils fans. That last core video I did comparing us to the Senators did quite well, so I figured why not do another one. This time looking at another team in a somewhat similar position, where I'm keeping these more so about teams with similar uh, aged players of their core as they compare to ours, similar contract situations as best as I can, and then obviously teams that are at least somewhat vying for cup and playoff aspirations, as looking at bottom feeders is obviously just not going to be a ton of fun with this. So with all of that in mind, today's video is going to be comparing our core to the Buffalo Sabres. Now, I did switch up our quote unquote core a little bit here so it more accurately aligns with where the Sabres contracts are also at. And also, I do have another caveat to throw in here where I'm going to be assuming the Dahlin extension that is rumored out there. There has both been rumors of 10 million and 10.5 million per, just because it rounds out the contract situation a bit better as far as term deals, et cetera, et cetera. So I went with the $10 million deal just to hedge on the lower side. So just keep that in mind. But I'm a big fan of Dahlin's, as you'll see when I do the comparison with him later on in the video. So let's go ahead and jump into it. For the Sabres core, I went with Tage Thompson, Dylan Cousins, Jeff Skinner, Rasmus Dahlin, and Mateus Samuelsson. Now, Samuelsson's name maybe doesn't completely jump out at you, but he is, I believe, actually their longest contract remaining, or he's right up there with Tage, and then obviously Dahlin will be the longest contract once his extension kicks in. But he is signed for many, many years out. And so for the Devils core to compare to that, I went with Jack, Nico, Timo, Dougie, and Siegenthaler. So obviously Bratt was left out of this one, and that's because, while with the Senators, I didn't really have a great apt comparison to make one-to-one with that team, keeping the position similar. Here I could do it. We also have Siegenthaler locked up for a number of years. He is close enough in age range, same role position, the defensive defenseman spot. So he was a great, in my opinion, one-to-one comparison with Samuelsson. And then the rest of the cores kind of just line up a bit better. So let's go ahead and jump into the one-on-ones. So starting at the top, I'm going to go with the 1Cs, or at least the bona fide superstar for each team. And that's going to be Tage Thompson and Jack Hughes. So we got Tage at 25, making 7.142857. Forgot to mention this part. So the Buffalo core of Tage, Cousins, Skinner, Dahlin at 10 million, remember, and Samuelsson is 37.5 mil with some random numbers at the end there for per year, with Jack, Nico, Timo, Dougie, Siegs coming at 36.45. So you're talking almost exactly 1 million less for the Devils core versus the Buffalo core. I'll also say here at the top, I'm taking the Devils core over Buffalo, even if there is one player in particular I would take over his counterpart, which I think is a fairly obvious one. But that one player is not going to be Tage compared to Jack. So Tage, 3 seasons ago, 8 goals, 6 assists, 14 points, 38 goals, 30 assists, 68 points, and 78 2 seasons ago. And then last season, the big super breakout year for him, 47, 47, 94 points in 78 games. Jack, 22 years old, making 8 mil. So you got 3 years less and making a little bit less than a million more per season. 3 seasons ago, 11 goals, 20 assists, 31 points, and 56. 2 seasons ago, 26 goals, 30 assists, 56 points in 49 games. Talked about it last time. Over a point per game that season. And then obviously this big major year, 43 goals, 56 assists, 99 points in 78 games. So Tage and Jack, I think, are fairly comparable from a production standpoint, especially this last season, where Jack definitely outpaces him the 2 seasons before. People that will say Tage over Jack will obviously point to the size difference in the two. But, I mean, sure, he's bigger than Jack, but just because you're bigger doesn't make you the better player. I mean, Jack still produced more, right? And I would say on the aggregate, Jack actually played with worse line mates on the year than Tage did. We're going to see what Jack's able to do this year with, I think, a true top 6 wingers for the entire season, hopefully. And Tage probably is going to have a bit less luck, just given the guys he was playing with were a bit more of the older type player, if you want to put it that way. Just they are more likely to hit that aging curve than the people Jack will be playing with in the regards of like Bratt, maybe Mercer. You could say that for Toffoli if you think he's going to be with Jack, which I do. So I think they're a great comparable. I'm a huge Tage fan. I actually got both of these guys on my fantasy hockey team for this season. I had the chance to trade both of them to get McDavid. I GM along with my brother. We turned down that trade because we're like, you know what? We're going to actually be able to watch these two play. We're not going to watch the West Coast games with McDavid. Would our team be better with McDavid? Absolutely. We agreed that on paper it was a no-brainer trade pretty much. But it's a keeper league, and with Jack, we are just way too big of homers. We couldn't give up Jack. So, yeah, huge Tage fan. I think he's going to continue to explode. I don't think he's going to take a step back. Yeah, he is on the cheaper contract compared to Jack, but Jack is younger, and Tage just had arguably his peak age season. Age 25 is, arguably right where you're at your absolute best. Jack still has 3 more seasons to even get there. So I am taking Jack, however close it may be. I still think Jack is the clear take here. Next up, I'm going Dylan Cousins and Nico Hischier. So Cousins, 22 years old, making 7.1. Hischier, 24 years old, making 7.25. 2 years older, making just a smidge more. But when you get into the actual on-ice impact, it's not even close. Cousins 3 seasons ago, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points in 41. To Nico, 6 goals, 5 assists, 11 in 21 games. Had a hurt season. 2 seasons ago, 13 goals, 25 assists, 38 points for Cousins and 79. Nico, 21, 39, 60, and 70. And then, of course, this last year, 31 goals, 37 assists, 68 points for Cousins in 81 games. And Nico with the big 31 goals, 49 assists, 80 points in 80 games. So not just offensively does Nico continuously outpace Cousins, but also defensively, Nico is a infinitely better player. Again, perennial Selke candidate here, where Cousins probably will never be nominated for one of those. Sure, he's 2 years younger, but Nico is still absolutely in his prime. So I would love to hear if there's any Buffalo fans that would take Cousins over Nico, because I don't think there is much of an argument for it. Next up, I went with the wingers. Now, how comparable the games are, a bit maybe, but Jeff Skinner, 31 years old, making 9 mil. Timo Meier will be 27 for the season, making 8.8. 3 seasons ago, Skinner obviously had that really, really off year. 7 goals, 7 assists, 14 points, and 53. Timo, 12 goals, 19 assists, 31 points, and 54. Not that remarkable by either of them, even if Timo doubled him up. Skinner, 2 seasons ago, 33 goals, 30 assists, 63 assists in 80 games. Timo, 35 goals, 41 assists, 76 and 77. And then Skinner, obviously with his huge season last year, 35 goals, 47 assists, 82 points in 79 games. And then Timo actually with a bit of a downturn, even with the 40-goal season, 26 assists, 66 points in 78 games. So I don't think it'll be any surprise. I am obviously going to take Timo here over Skinner. Much better age, cheaper contract. I think the better track record. It's going to have the better age curve. Plays a much more sought after game in the power forward rather than just the sniper winger position. He's also much more defensively responsible than Skinner. Obviously, Skinner had a great year last year. I am not taking anything away from him there. But if you're just looking at the careers as a whole, age, contract, style of game, I think Timo is the obvious pick here, right? Buffalo fans, again, don't think there's too much to argue against there. Skinner is fantastic. It's not like there's a huge gulf here if you go just golf off of last season, but there's still a gulf. Now into the one where Buffalo fans will agree with me finally. Rasmus Dahlin versus Dougie Hamilton. Now this is obviously the biggest gap in age of any of these I have done, but these are the 1Ds of both teams. And I'll just say up jump, I'm taking Dahlin, no hesitation at all. Like, way taking Dahlin over Dougie. But to do comparisons, again, 23 years old to 30, currently making 6. I said I was doing 10 mil for this practice. There's also rumors he's going to be making 10.5. We'll see. Dougie making 9. 3 seasons ago, Dahlin, 5 goals, 18 assists, 23 points, and 56. Dougie, 10 goals, 32 assists, 42 points, and 55. Again, not the greatest comparisons. You're talking like Dahlin as a teenager, or I think that was just his 20-year-old season, and then Dougie at like 27. So it's not apples to apples really here on these past 3, but anywho, Dahlin 2 ago, 13 goals, 40 assists, 53 points, and 80. Dougie 9 goals, 21 assists, 30 and 62. And then Darlene last year, 15 goals, 58 assists, 73 and 78. And Dougie, 22 goals, 52 assists, 74 and 82. Now, we all love Dougie here in New Jersey. He had a fantastic year last year. Arguably one of the best defensemen, one-timers, and shots from the points on the power play of anyone in the league. But like I said, I'm taking Darlene, no brainer, no hesitation. I would trade a ton to get that man on this team. But there's no way he's ever going to get moved from Buffalo. You guys have a fantastic player there. And you all know it. Treasure him. He is going to be great for many, 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 many years. Next and last up is the very hard to compare defensive defenseman. Got the Matthias Samuelsson and Jonas Siegenthaler. Samuelsson 23, making 4.285714. Siegenthaler 26, making 3.4. So a few years older, but making just under a mil less. So into these absolute heater of stats, Samuelsson 3 seasons ago, no goals, 2 assists in 12 games. Siegenthaler, no goals, no assists in 8 games. 2 seasons ago, no goals, 10 assists and 42 for Samuelsson. Siegenthaler blowing him away with a single goal and 13 assists for 14 points in 70 games. And then Samuelsson last season, 2 goals, 8 assists, 10 points in 55. Siegenthaler, 4 goals, 17 assists for 21 in 80. Now, Samuelsson actually hasn't played a ton of NHL games, and he still got that major deal. They obviously see a lot in him. Maybe somewhat similar to our Siegenthaler extension, where he didn't have a ton of games, especially with us, when we gave him the mid-long-term deal at that 3.4. Both these guys seem to be defensive studs. I'm still taking Siegenthaler over Samuelsson. Defenseman aging curves are a bit different. You do like them a bit more in their older years. So over the age of these contracts, I mean, Samuelson's is probably still going to be a great deal, especially with the cap flying up. But currently, especially over the next few years, I'm taking Siegenthaler, no-brainer here. These two are obviously the least impactful of every name on this list, and we have bigger names like Tuck, Bratt, etc. that we could have discussed here. But the reason I didn't is because, again, just talking age, position, and all of that, I really wanted to get the longer term, more aptly comparable contracts in here. And so this is the guys I ended up choosing. I probably could have extended this out to Tuck and Bratt, but I wanted to stick with the 5 names. So maybe next season when I got a bit more info, because I also would have loved to compare Power and Luke on this. So maybe when I do this next offseason, I will bump it up to 7 names. Just again, Buffalo and Jersey are set up in the long term. Young guys, long, very good contracts on a lot of them. I really like where Buffalo's at. I think they are going to be the second most fun team to watch behind us this season. Again, that's why we kept Tage and Jack, because I'm going to be watching a ton of Buffalo and a ton of Devils games this year. And I just think it's really fun cores on both. Skinner definitely brings down the comparison quite a bit when you bring in Timo, and then I think Nico is leaps above Cousins. Darlene absolutely clears Dougie. Sieg Samuelsson, close. I'm taking Siegs. And then Jack Tage, close-ish, but I'm still taking Jack easy. Buffalo fans would definitely love to hear your arguments. I know what you're going to say with Tage versus Jack. I'm hearing you. Cousins versus Nico and Skinner Timo, I don't think there's much to argue against there. And then I'm with you. Darlene over Dougie, I don't think is very controversial. I don't think any Devils fans will give me much flack for that one either. So that will do it. Really fun teams here. Cannot wait to watch a ton of both of them this season. I want to make this one a fairly straight video as well, heading into the weekend. Try and keep Saturday, Sunday videos a bit more light. And yeah, that will do it for today. I will see all of you again tomorrow morning as always. And forever, let's go Devils.